It is indeed showtime. Welcome to the Friday extravaganza, the morning of the night that was. The Montreal Canadiens comeback kids rolling their winning streak to 4 games in a dramatic 3-2 overtime victory off the stick of so many different players, from Lane Hutson to Cole Caufield, from Nick Suzuki to Cole Caufield, past UC Soros, who I wonder this morning if he believes he could have had either shot back considering how well he played. Welcome
Yeah.
to the show. There's Marco D'Amico. How's it going this morning, sir?
Oh man, what a funny week this has been. The last 2 home games coming back home half an hour later because it goes to overtime. Worth it. I think it speaks to the character of this team that, they're always in the fight and they're never really out of it. And that clutch ability to just be able to jump in, with the goalie removed. Who needs a goalie when you have Lane Hutson, to be honest? But at this point, like just being able to be that quick on the counterattack and the transition, it's so evident this year, and it helps keep them in all games at all times.
Yeah, I was wondering, Marco going Saul hat today. You were on a roll, bro. You are like our Nick Suzuki Iron Man.
All right. I
With
mean, I
the
have them. They're
chapeau.
all up there. Like, if it's really a bothersome problem, I can go get them.
Well, look at NC. Like, whoa, wait a minute, what's going on here? But bald is
I,
beautiful. I love it, sir.
I'm hot.
Um,
I'm hot.
You see, lots to get to today. We're going to unpack it all. We're going to hear from all of y'all. But of course, you can support us by supporting our sponsors, cheapesttshirts.ca, Little Bear Online, your neighborhood pet store, Chuck and Evie, Catherine Prince Realty from Remax Platine. And we cannot wait to see you at McLean's Pub, 1210 Peel Street, coming up October 22nd, 5 days from today. D'Amico and Starr, you can reach out and touch us. We'll be there live from 7 to 8 p.m. for our watch party. We've got lots to give away. We're going to have, Marco, we're going to have merchandise. We've got hats, T-shirts, hoodies to give away for free.
There you go, NC. I'm gonna have a hat.
But you're going to have to give it away. We'll see if we can get some for ourselves down the road.
Well,
down the road.
I'll only give it away if they score a hat trick at the game. How about that?
So let's get into last night's game. If there's one thing we've learned, obviously the Montreal Canadiens have commanded respect going into the game with Nashville, winners of 3 in a row. And like any team worth its salt, when it comes to advanced scouting, who can we not afford to let beat us tonight? Collectively, the Montreal Canadiens are one of the faster teams out of the gate in the month of October. And clearly Nashville rolled into the Bell Center with the strategy of, how do we slow this team down? How do we get to the point where 6 shots on goal, a couple of shots on goal through the midway point of the game's second period, not a barn burner of an offensive showdown, but that to me is because of Nashville's game plan. So let's start there. How big of a weapon is this speed dynamic we talk about, the team was talking about in the preseason here?
Yeah, I think they've always wanted to play this style, but I don't think they had the elements to do it. And I think that's the key, right? So like, if everyone remembers last year, they spent a lot of time in their own zone, a lot of time, and the puck would cycle, and these shifts would be like eternal. They would spend 2 minutes in the defensive zone just chasing the puck, right? They don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
And good luck, Nick. Good luck.
It's been fun.
Yeah, well, for you guys must be going crazy.
Yeah.
So for my analysis is, you finally have the ability to go into a game, get the puck, like have them attack your zone. You kill the play, you turn it around very quickly, and boom, the counterattack is on, and you are controlling the pace of the game at almost every moment, because then you're spending time in the offensive zone, you're controlling transition. And the only real defense that Nashville had for that was to line up 4 guys at the blue line, and crunch the I guess forward one, the forward doing the zone entry to the side, and then force them to dump and chase, right? And I think the Canadiens aren't necessarily built to be a dump and chase team outside of their fourth line. To me, I don't think it's their style. So I think that's where the difficulty lay in being able to attack the middle. And so, against a team, because, obviously Nashville is more of a defensive style team. They don't have the offensive drive to go toe to toe with a team like Montreal in the speed for speed game. And so when you play that and you box them out, it's like a trench war. Like every inch as you get to the blue line is a battle. And there were some significant battles. So when you get to the point of playing a team like Nashville, you have to open the ice, basically, is what happens. And if you look at most of their goals and most of their best opportunities, they stretch the ice. And the only way they were able to do that was because of Lane Hutson, Noah Dobson, Mike Matheson. And really, it's not a surprise that those were the three most used defensemen. Martin St. Louis kept hammering this at his post-game press conference. They allow us to play the game we want to play, is exactly what he said.
I want to put this up on the screen here if I can quickly. It actually might be better this way if I could figure this out at one point.
One day we'll get to training.
Yeah, I know it's those split screens. But Marco, what we're looking at here, done by the great people at Hockey Stats Cards and Dom Lecision and the data from Natural Stat Trick, right? About the adjusted game score composition when we talk about how the Montreal Canadiens did. Lane Hutson's number is ridiculous. Like how
you can't even see it, but
I know I'm going to fix that here in a second. This is the joy, right? If I wish we had somebody to help us behind the scenes. There we go. Thank you very much.
We'll get there.
Lane Hutson's number. I mean, for those that are new to analytics, can you kind of break it down in a simplified way? Like when we look at Lane Hutson here at the top, and what he meant, team offense, team defense, individual, so on and so forth.
Yeah. So basically, when you look at this, it's basically a stacked scorecard. So the more your card is going to the right, the better your game was.
Yeah.
And you look at a guy like, for example, Mike Matheson, it's going in two directions, which is ironic because sometimes that's what he does on the ice.
Yeah.
It's because, in this case, his team offense above average, like he didn't bring enough offensive flair to the game, even though I thought he had a brilliant opportunity right before Seattle scored the second goal of the game.
Yeah.
You look at Lane Hutson, his team defense above average was way better than expected.
Yeah.
His team offense above average was good, better than average, but his individual offense was off the charts. And that's what drives the line all the way out. So basically, what could you read from this? Lane Hutson was elite defensively. Lane Hutson was elite offensively. And Lane Hutson was good, very, very good offensively in a vacuum without comparing him to anybody else on the ice. So
now let's go to the bottom of the list. What about Noah Dobson, though? Like you go from one extreme, Lane Hutson, everything far to the right, as Marco just finished explaining. Now Noah Dobson, who I didn't think played a bad game. What does this stat card indicate about Noah Dobson's game in 65 minutes?
Well, it's because it's very small, right? So there's not much to work with there in terms of game score. So that he didn't necessarily bring much offense. Neither did Mike Matheson. The two were on the same pair. He played better defensively, team defense above average, than Mike Matheson to a marginal degree. But the reason why his score is knocked down by 0.5 is because he was on that goal. I believe is scored by Nick Perbix, the second the second goal. So the moment you're on the ice for a goal against as a defenseman, it's basically a 0.5 against you. So that's basically what you're seeing here. What's more interesting to me, because obviously when you look at Dobson and Matheson, they're playing against the top opposition every single game, right?
Correct.
What's more interesting to me is actually Carrier and Goulet. I thought that you really see the impact that they had over the game. And Goulet to me is the most surprising because what sticks out on this is actually his offensive contribution. He didn't get a goal yesterday, but what he did in the offensive zone generated offensive chances. And that's what you want to see more of Goulet on a regular basis, is him activating from the blue line because he has a good shot. He has good mobility. You want to be able to see him do that, especially if he's playing on a pairing with Lane Hutson, because he has a better shot than Lane, right? And so having that threat from the point diversifies where your offense can come from. You can overload the goalie if there's a rebound, et cetera, et cetera. So just being able to continue to do that, I thought was really good. So that caught my eye amongst, obviously Lane Hutson breaking the model catches everybody's eye, but it was Caden Goulet and Alex Carrier. And I will continue to say this. If we had to make like a silent MVP for the Canadiens so far that hasn't really stuck out, it's going to be Alex Carrier for me so far because he's just been so solid.
I agree wholeheartedly with that sentiment. He makes playing defense look easy. His movements are smooth. His ability to control the gap is strong. He can separate the man from the puck without taking penalties. I like the read. And I mean, it's back-to-back games now. The home opener where Lane Hutson goes coast to coast, highlight reel goal. And it's amazing, the twists and turns, because it took forever to get that game going, to our opening statement, how slow it was, lacking offense, and more towards Nashville shutting down Montreal. But Mike Matheson going coast to coast, that resulted in the Perbix goal, right? What could have been there, and the swings in that hockey game. I really like how the Canadiens manage the swings and the emotion in a game. And you heard Cole Caufield afterwards talk about, we want to get this done in 60. But the bigger point, I suppose, that 13 made was this team competes, man, whether it's 60 minutes, 65 minutes, there's no slowing them down.
And I like that you bring up Cole Caufield, because that's definitely a subject I'd like to touch on, not simply just because he's a goal-scoring machine. Everybody that watched the game last night, how effective was Cole Caufield without the puck?
Yeah,
right?
His all-around game is so good.
His all-around, like this guy against Nashville, this is a heavy team, guys. Against Nashville, 5'7" dude with like the fight of a dog in him, just hitting 6'3", 6'4" defensemen without fear, winning board battles, making quick plays. Nick Suzuki has 7 points in 5 games now.
He's on pace for 115 assists. And no goals, by the way.
The Scott Gomez special.
Exactly.
So when you get to when you look, that line necessarily at 5-on-5 hasn't looked phenomenal, but Cole Caufield has.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible how they're being used as a shutdown line, even at home. And they're coming out with more than the opposition whilst beating them defensively. Like, you couldn't put that on a bingo card a year or two ago, that Cole Caufield would out hustle defensively in coverage guys like Steven Stamkos, Ryan O'Reilly, Philip Forsberg, etc. Right? And it's exactly what you saw last night. And yes, we're going to talk about the clutch scoring and the way that his release has gotten quicker and the torque on that flex has gotten much better. But at the same time, it's just something, again, that Martin St. Louis has been saying for a while. If you are able to attack the game the way the game needs you to play it, then the game will afford you the opportunities that you want offensively to be able to play your game.
Yeah. We'll talk about the depth. We'll talk about Kapanen getting his 3rd goal. Again, where was he? In front of the net. What we did see, though, last night, and we were kind of warned about this, was interesting. TSN 690's Victor Finley, who covers practice for the radio station, had hinted that maybe the Canadiens were more or less going to run the same lineup back against Nashville as they did versus Seattle. Well, as we know, it was Jakob Dobson and Jaden Struble in, Jack-Eye and Montembeault out. I want to talk about Jaden Struble. I want to talk about how he looked with Lane Hutson. I want to talk about Struble's ice time and how good he is in his own end. Jakob Dobson continues to put up high numbers. Hard to beat this young man. And he was so great, too, on the 2-0 save in overtime there, where he was ready to rush out of that net, quick whistle. And that's why Cole Caufield went over and sprinted over to him when he buried the game winner 3-2 over Nashville. But let's talk a little bit up first about Kaiden Guhle. What we saw now, I didn't see in a replay. I was watching on TSN Regional last night. They showed Guhle like kind of pushing off. I don't know. Maybe was it a groin? Was it his knee again? The point I'm making is him, Evans, and Laine didn't practice. They were out for, air quote, therapy days. And whenever you see Kaiden Guhle on a therapy day, you're like, oh, damn. Man, oh, man. You don't want the injury bug to hit a guy who's been hit by the injury bug almost every season. So I know you were in the room. I want to talk about how you got a chance to catch up with Lane Hutson for a while, but anything on Kaiden Guhle, whispers in the press box, what it was, because he was back on the bench in overtime, unless I'm wrong, but
he never left the bench.
Right,
he was on the bench the whole time.
What's the conversation? Was there anything? Was there any mention of Guhle and his health and whatnot?
We asked Martin St. Louis point blank, and he said that because at one point you saw that happen, and then they also made the switch where Jaden Struble went up and played with Lane Hutson, and it was Carrier playing with Kaiden Guhle, and Guhle's minutes got significantly reduced. He played like 16 minutes last night, as opposed to his usual 20-21. So could they have been lightening his load possible.
Yeah.
He looked to be in pain. He looked to be in pain on the bench, but he finished the game. So if he finished the game, chances are, it's, oh, thank you. Chances are that things are going to be okay. He may be playing through something, and that's fine. We knew that he had a groin injury during the preseason. I can tell you with utter confidence that it's still bothering both him and Noah Dobson. Not to the point where they cannot play, but again, like obviously with the style that Goalie plays, there's always a risk of aggravation or overcompensation in another body part that causes you. Because, for example, and I'll give you the best example I can give, it's very common for players with groin injuries because you don't have the full range of motion when it comes to your push off, right? The first two strides, you play lower and you're lower on your knees and you push your knees. Well, that also exposes your knees if there's any contact with an opposing player. That's what happened to Caden Gooley in that play. I'm not saying he injured his knee, but because you're trying to overcompensate for one injury, it's almost a rule of thumb that you expose yourself to potentially injuring something else. So that's why I say, like, we'll see what happens. You have a case like Caden Gooley, and then you have Noah Dobson, who looked very mobile last night. So, everybody kind of heals at a different pace. But from what I've been told, there was no injury to report. Like the Canadiens, generally, if there is like, he's being evaluated, we'll inform you tomorrow, although today's a day off for the media. They would inform us Saturday that there would be something, so we haven't heard anything. Would it surprise me if he's not at practice on Saturday tomorrow? No, it wouldn't. But I think he should be playing on Saturday unless something crazy happened once they took off their equipment.
I see some comments, whether it's on the radio or here on the Starr D'Amico show on YouTube.com. Please like and subscribe to the channel. The road to 20,000 subs begins with you guys, and you guys have been an unbelievably loyal audience. And I can speak for Marco when I say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. But I just want to keep things in perspective a little bit here, and I'm a huge law of averages guy. I really do subscribe to that. I try not to get too high and too low because of the law of averages, right? But let's keep it in perspective. And by that, I mean, when the Montreal Canadiens opened up training camp, the main camp, what were they talking about? How important it was. One of the main focal points was how important it was for this team to not start the season the way they did last year. And I've heard some nitpicking. Look at the strength of the opposition. Schedule maybe favor them a little bit. Have they really played playoff bound teams, right? Or teams you can envision being in the playoffs in April and May? To that, I say, I don't read too much into that, Marco. The fact that this team wanted to be faster, wanted to be deeper. We saw 12 guys on the score sheet in Detroit. We saw 11 guys on the score sheet against Seattle. The no-quit team, the fact that they're playing fast, the fact that the Montreal Canadiens right now through 5 games have allowed the 4th fewest shots on goal per average. So they're minimizing the volume against other teams. Sure, the power play is slipping towards the bottom tier. I think they're 23rd today on the power play overall in the league, and we'll get to that, right? But the point I really want to emphasize is the team set out a goal at the beginning of the season. They wanted to be effective. They wanted to win games. They wanted to play fast and aggressive. I think they're doing that. So I don't really care about who they're playing. There's so much parity in hockey today. Everybody's kind of good. Anybody can be beaten on any given game day. So when you look at what they wanted to do, they're checking some boxes and accomplishing their early goals. And I'll remind you, it took them upwards, Marco, of 30 games last season. You don't need to know. You already know this, but it took them upwards of 30 games to get their first 3-game winning streak. We're in game 5 of the regular season. They've won 4 in a row. And guess what, Habs Nation? You wake up this morning, you look at the Atlantic Division, 8 points leads that division. So your read on what they've tried to accomplish, have they hit most of the goals that they told the public about during camp? Let's go.
Peter, the only problem with that is that Pittsburgh also keeps winning.
I know. I was so disappointed when I woke up. Said,
and every single time Pittsburgh wins, you just hear a soft woo in the press box, and that's me.
Yeah.
I'm literally just playing, guys. Pittsburgh at one point or another are going to start selling off, and I think at that point they're going to
Let's go. But yeah, make sure Crosby gets the highlight packs, you know?
I don't. If you, like obviously, I grew up. I spent my summers in Halifax, in Nova Scotia. Very familiar with the McKinnon family. Very familiar with the Crosbys. I don't think anybody needs to send him anything. This guy is a hockey fanatic. He
Yeah, he's a
watches
hockey
by
junkie.
himself.
Yeah.
So I really want to talk about what Johnson put up here. This was going to be one of the things I really want to talk about. The Canadians don't seem to get hemmed much in their zone anymore.
No. Speed kills, eh?
It's not even just speed. It's, and Martin St. Louis had a really good quote on this yesterday. He was on fire last night. He said, "We've been trying to play this kind of game for 3 years, and now we have the right elements to do so." And obviously speaking to the acquisition of Noah Dobson in this case. But it's incredible how the puck comes in, they deal with pressure in almost a nonchalant way, kill the play, and poof, it's back the other way in like a snap of a finger. And we're executing a counterattack time after time after time. And I think I can count on 2 hands over the last 5 games how many times the Canadians were in their own zone for more than 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I think maybe 1 hand when it comes to the first pair of Dobson and Matheson. And so it's not by chance that these guys, like Matheson last night, again, 26 minutes. Jesus.
Yeah.
Last year, people would be telling Martin St. Louis, like, why aren't you playing Hutson more?
Yeah.
Hutson played like 24 minutes.
But also, one of the bigger numbers to add to your point, over 3 minutes shorthanded Mike Matheson.
Yes, but when you've taken Mike Matheson off the power play, and you've given him basically the reins of the penalty kill. Mike Matheson was always excellent on the penalty kill. His issue was 5-on-5 transition because it was him trying to get out of the zone. And he would always get like pressured. And that's when he would make the unforced error that everyone would focus on, which is obvious and everyone should. It's egregious mistakes. He doesn't make those mistakes anymore. Why? He doesn't have to do it alone. He can, there's pressure, boom, take it, Dobson. And then Dobson takes care of, or Dobson can send him back. But now you have 2 mobile defensemen who could basically work with each other. And again, on paper, this combination did not make sense. On ice, this combination makes perfect sense.
It's gold.
It's kind of hilarious. And the one aspect that I will say is when you're able to proceed to do a counterattack like that, you need one other element. And this is the thing that's changed in the Canadians from top to bottom. Your center has to play lower, right? So oftentimes last year we saw Nick Suzuki just outside the blue line as they were doing zone exits. Jake Evans was probably the only one that played low because he's more of a defensive center. Not the case anymore. Nick Suzuki's playing below the blue line. Kirby Dach is playing below the blue line. So what are you doing? You're already offering an exit option to your defenseman. So it's not automatic. Thank you, Stefan. It's not automatic that the player that's going to be making the exit is the defenseman. It could go through the center. It could go cross ice. So that's extremely difficult then as a forechecker. Where do you position yourself? Because you have these options. Well, by creating transition options, you open up the ice. And that's exactly what we were talking about at the beginning of the show is the Canadians' transition game is not simply helped by one player, but it's helped by the fact that they're all playing this style in a synchronized fashion, and that opens up the ice.
I like this comment from Chris Hansen because it was one of the points I get. If you're a loyal viewer of the show, I've brought it up. I think Marco can back me up here.
I will be having no Armia slander on this show.
I was concerned about the loss of veterans, good, steady, dirty minute-eating players is what I would call Yoel Armia. Mm-hmm. But Jake Evans he's picked up where he left off. I thought Josh Anderson had a more engaged game last night. I'd like to see him, firing pucks a little bit, getting a little bit more involved in the mix. And, of course, Kapanen gets his 3rd goal of the season from in front of the net, right? Mm-hmm. It's exactly where you want to be as the comeback was on, where the Canadians were down 1-0 and 2-1 in this game.
And the one player I actually want to talk about, you didn't even mention. Alex Newhook has looked phenomenal.
He should have passed to Demidov, though. He should have passed to Demidov on that.
The problem is the defenseman was playing that really well in the way that he kind of slid in with the stick out. So you
Because I want to
killed.
see that Demidov KHL shot, man. I need to see more of it. We saw it in the KHL, brother. It's freaking. I was about to say the F word. It's freaking dynamic, man.
Yeah, that's F word crazy. It's just, again, I understand at 5-on-5, but on the penalty kill, it's just he covers so much ice so quickly,
Yeah.
and it's really effective in the sense that you have him and Kapanen left shot, right shot face-offs. So you're already starting at a benefit right there because you have two options. Kapanen plays like more of a pure center, so he takes the center of the ice in the defensive zone and plays north-south up the slot. Yes, well, this is kind of the point we're getting at. But the beauty of the penalty kill is you don't need to pass; you need to
exactly.
get the puck out.
Yeah,
and so Alex Newhook, I find, is very effective at rush defense, very effective at zone pressure. And if you're playing zone defense on the PK, this is a guy that can cover his allotted circle, his zone, because you basically have. Soon I'm gonna have to get like a hockey board to explain what I'm talking about, because people are not going to be able to visualize it.
Oh Lord!
But when you're playing 4 against 5, you're basically playing a square, and you're going up like this or down like this. Well, Newhook can go up to the blue line and back and cover so much ice so quickly that it allows the penalty kill to put in a significant amount of pressure. And you saw last night, outside of the Steven Stamkos goal, which deflected off Caden Gooley, so it wasn't really a clean shot. They were really good and effective in being able to box them out. And I think Alex Newhook is a big part of that, and that has brought confidence to his 5-on-5 game, because yes, he should have passed to Demidov, but that play doesn't happen unless he jumps on a puck in the neutral zone, breaks a play from Nashville, and goes back the other way. So it's about fine-tuning it. I think he should have passed that puck, but at the same time, if he wasn't going to pass that puck, I think he should have shot that puck faster.
Let's talk about how special a player 48 is. I mean, obviously, it's going to be a goal. It's going to be Jonathan Marchessault is a 40-goal scorer in the National Hockey League. I mean, this guy was born to score goals. He's paid to score goals. And Lane Hutson doesn't even flinch, man. He doesn't even flinch. And I don't know what I'm more impressed by. I mean, obviously, his positioning was very sound, got the bounce that fell, but the processing power, to me, I think, is what I land on. About he realizes, he blocks the shot, he picks up the puck, he knows where it is immediately, and then in faster than a heartbeat, his head is up, spots 13, the tape-to-tape pass, and then the release from Cole Caufield from distance, beats UC Saros short side, below the blocker, clean, and he would pick on the blocker side again to score the overtime winner. But how special of a total sequence was that by Lane Hutson, who now, by the way, is on 4 points after 5 games. I mean, that's a goal. We're going to see that for a long time, I think.
So, yeah, I mean, everybody and their mother was asking Lane Hutson, if he had practiced being a goalie at any point in his career. And, he obviously just laughed and was like, no. But I think what was like, you're in that situation. You're playing. Well, thank you for watching. You're playing, you're trying to stave off the pressure. Net's empty, only one back. Not only do you stop the shot, but you manage to collect the puck and do almost a 2-zone pass. Thank God the red line has been removed. What? Let's go Habs?
No, Jesus is in the house today, bro. It's not even Sunday.
And so, like, being able to have the wherewithal to make a 2-zone pass to Cole Caufield and spring him, and Cole Caufield just exploding into the offensive zone and taking that shot as just absolutely just clutch. And, there are defensemen in hockey that when the game is on the line, elevate. And there are defensemen in hockey that when the game is on the line, they decide to play it safe. Lane Hutson is one of those rare players that when his game elevates, the defensive side of the puck doesn't suffer.
Yeah.
And that's what I believe will make him a top 5 defenseman in the NHL, despite, the diminutive stature and, we even used to say as of last year, like the skating was like a little off. I don't know if you guys remember the back check yesterday, the 2-on-0 in overtime against Dovesh,
Yep.
Lane Hutson managed to
Correct.
basically catch up to
Correct.
them.
Yep.
What an improvement in his skating you see this year. Just really focused on that explosivity and that being able to really maximize his stride. You see it now. And so I think he's just continuing to get better and better and better. The contract sign, he was on cloud 9 last night, cracking jokes, just really happy about where things are going. You really feel, what's the word? Like you really feel a flow right now. You really feel an energy from him. And I think that
Like a
no
relief or
matter
a sense of relief a little bit,
no, no,
maybe?
no, 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 no. I wouldn't even say relief. Like it's just a joie de vivre, I would say.
Right.
And
Sure.
if you look at him analytically, any defenseman that play with him, it was Gooley or Struble, their numbers went through the roof. And we saw the numbers before. Their numbers went through the roof the moment that they were paired with Hutson. And Hutson is playing, I need to remind everyone, on his off side. He's on the right
Exactly.
side as a lefty. The
Yep.
fact, and he, we spoke about this to a little bit of detail because it's difficult, right? Because playing on the left side, it sounds absolutely like trivial, right? When you think about this, but if you want to play a quick transition game, you need to pivot out, right? So usually if you're on the right side, you just have to, the puck will be coming at you and your stick is here, and it's coming this way. But if you're like me, you're a righty and you're playing on the left side, you need to pivot to receive the pass. You're not going to receive it on your backhand or else there's a serious chance that you lose possession. So to do that when you're Lane Hutson, right, and still not break stride, still not hamper your transition, are able to make the right play despite the half a second less in free ice that you have before the forecheckers are on you, it just speaks to his overall hockey IQ and his intelligence. And again, the wherewithal to make that pass to Caufield after blocking that shot, again, to me is just A1. And I will say this, the contract that he signed is a steal today.
That's going to
It
age
will
like a
be
fine wine.
it will be larceny at the moment that it actually starts.
Yeah. I mean, cap going to 104, then maybe 113 on the conservative end.
105 is what I heard is the minimum now. And there's a chance that it goes to 106.
I mean, the Board of Governors coming out of New York City with lots there on, a little bit of a taste about NHL expansion. And in case you missed it, Lane Hutson, along with Brock Besser and Thatcher Demko, named to the 40-man prelim roster for Team USA ahead of the Milano Cortina Olympics coming up in February of 2026. So there's something to keep an eye on moving forward.
Just to touch on that, we did speak to Lane Hutson about it. He was really happy to be part of it. But again, this isn't a situation where I believe Lane Hutson was ever not going to be considered.
Yeah.
Well, I hope so, Robert. He's signed for the next 8 years. If there's any safe bet, it's that Lane Hutson will be a Montreal Canadian into the 2030s.
Yeah.
So that's all. That's what you got to think when you buy a jersey. How long is this guy going to be here, and how good is he going to be? I think Lane Hutson checks both boxes. When you look at when it came to Lane Hutson, Bill Guerin, Tom Fitzgerald, and the management team over at Team USA sent a message this summer, right? Because he didn't go to the World Junior Championships, and they got a lot of blowback from within hockey, Team USA, and so. The way that Lane's been playing, there was that one-off game against the Leafs. But after that, I think he's just gotten better and better and better. And they didn't want to take the chance of not being able to have him because you have to send this list and then you have to choose from it. And I think it was a 50-man list. I didn't know it was 30. But you have to give them a certain list of players that you can choose from the pool. Yeah. And I like that Brock Besser and Thatcher Demko were also included. I was surprised that Brock Besser wasn't there to begin with.
Exactly. Same,
but but I think it speaks to the overall quality of Team USA's roster, right? Because we were having this conversation. I don't think Lane Hutson's making that team. I think and ladies and gentlemen, I think it's normal that he doesn't make that team when Quinn Hughes and Zach Werenski are already on that team. You don't need another offensive left defenseman. But you need if there's injuries or whatnot, you always have a taxi squad in the Olympics. So 100%. It's worth it. It's worth it to keep him in the fold. And I get that. I think, and we were talking about this yesterday, Lane Hutson believes that Caufield should be on that roster all day, every day.
I mean, come on now. You got to be, you can never have enough goals, man. You can never have enough goals.
Tell that to Team USA, who benched Kyle Connor, or sorry,
Good point.
who scratched
Yeah.
Kyle Connor in the final when they needed a goal in overtime.
Yeah.
So the one thing I will say is I think that Cole Caufield is showing that even if he's not playing in a top 6 setting, because they're, with respect to him, there are better players. I think he's showing that he can play on a third or fourth line for them and not hurt them defensively. In fact, be a plus player at 5-on-5 whilst being someone they could use on the second wave of the power play. That kind of clutch element, especially when they lost in overtime and needed a goal, Cole Caufield, exactly. Thank you, Tyler.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. And Nick Suzuki, same thing for Team Canada. Nick Suzuki has been in a shutdown role. And on Tuesday night in the home opener, Don Sweeney was in town.
Yeah, doing the
General
scouting.
manager of the
I saw
Boston
that.
Bruins, scouting for Team Canada.
Yeah.
And Nick Suzuki did a brilliant job against Seattle of shutting down their top line. Brilliant job. And that's what they're looking for, because if Nick Suzuki is going to make Team Canada, it's going to be because he is an elite two-way player. Because it's going to be in a fourth line role or a 13th forward role. He's not going to be playing in the top 9, or at least unless there are injuries. I think the top 9 at center is basically,
exactly
decided. And then we kind of go from there. So these are why you're looking at these players and you're seeing different elements of their game come out when the expectation is that they should be offensive dynamos. And it's almost like the fact that they've improved the defensive side of the game. And this is something that Lane Hutson pointed out. It was like watching a young Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane.
Sure. Yeah.
That was his comparison. And he's like, look how good those guys became for their countries after they reached that maturity.
We got a lot of time to talk about the Olympics, but definitely worth bringing to the table considering yesterday's prelim roster announcement that featured Canadian superstar Lane Hutson on it. So while we have your attention, remind you, you can watch this show live with our watch party October 22nd from McLean's Pub. We've got Morella's gift cards to give away. It's an outstanding steakhouse in Ganawage Highway 132, right over the bridge, 14 minutes door-to-door from the city, from LaSalle, from Brossard, you name it. And we'll be there live October 22nd from 7 to 8. We have Habs tickets to give away. We have merchandise to give away to some of our loyal viewers and listeners. So looking forward to meeting many of you October 22nd for our watch party, 7 to 8 p.m. live. And if you can't make it, we'll be streaming it, of course, on the YouTube channel, as we always do. Jayden Struble drew into the lineup last night, played more ice time in that game than in any of the 4 games that Arbor Jacki had played. And listen, we know Arbor Jacki brings that credible intimidation factor. He can hit to hurt. Caden Gooley can hit to hurt. Jayden Struble is also an aggressive defenseman, but doesn't bring and isn't known or expected to bring that intimidation factor compared to Arbor Jacki. But I wonder how much they're going to let, and by they, I mean the Canadiens coaching staff, how much are they going to let this sample size grow? As you pointed out on Twitter yesterday when Martin St. Louis and Robida were mixing and matching, the analytics a year ago really liked Struble and Hutson together. They were back together yesterday, and I liked Struble's game. The fact that he's been watching for 4 games, slots in, didn't really look rusty to me. If I'm calling it like I see it, like I always try to do, I think he's better in his own end than Arbor Jacki per minute played personally for me. But I understand what Arbor brings. I believe he's an everyday NHL defenseman. I do. Arbor Jacki, I do. But this is a real battle here. What do you think the sample size looks like? For me, Struble gets back in Saturday against the Rangers, who roll here, losers of 3 in a row. So walk me through your process, what you saw from Struble, and again, what that sample size you think is going to look like before Jacki gets back in.
Well, I like that you bring up the defensive side of the game, right? Because if you look at last night, analytically speaking, okay, and I'm going to get to the eye test in a sec. I promise you guys. Analytically, yes, I think that Starr is nuts too, but not for this.
Yeah, I agree. I'm nuts, but not for this. And it's just an opinion, brother.
It's all good. Analytically speaking, Struble had the lowest expected goal count against on the team. What does that mean? In terms of the calculation, when Struble was on the ice, the Canadiens had the least likelihood of being scored against.
Yeah.
And that includes, it is a nice problem to have. And so this is what I was saying. This is where I sit on this. we at the top of the show were speculating on Caden Gooley's health.
Yeah.
Caden Gooley goes down. You're going to have both of those defensemen in the lineup. You want them fresh. You want them having played games, having gotten reps. So I don't necessarily see this as like the Canadians demoting Arbor Xhekaj. You have to let these guys draw in and show what they can do, because ultimately at one point, like, this is an obvious thing that I'm going to say, one of those left shot defensemen have to get traded to make room for or improve elsewhere. And I think this is an evaluation time for them as well. And I'm not saying they're going to trade Arbor Xhekaj, guys. I'm just saying they need to evaluate what they have in front of them. When you have Struble play the way he did, that score is not it's not by chance that his expected goals analytically are consistently low, because he covers the lower part of the ice so well, and he's very good in transition, and he has chemistry with Lane Hutson that Arbor Xhekaj does not. And so there's an element of that makes things a little different, right? They bumped Caden Gooley down to play with Carrier because I think Gooley plays much better with Carrier than he does with Lane Hutson. I don't know how. He's the only defenseman on the team that does this, but it's just the way the cookie crumbles. Chemistry is chemistry. It's personal. And I feel like Jaden Struble and Lane Hutson play a game that's very simpatico. And the moment that you put Jaden Struble with Lane Hutson, I thought Lane Hutson was expressing himself a little bit more offensively. And again, this isn't me saying Struble needs to play ahead of Arbor. I'm saying, even as an organization, you need to go and see what you have in this kid, because ultimately, again, you're going to have to make a decision at one point.
No,
there are teams that are very interested in Jaden Struble if he were ever to be made available. I can confirm this to you guys. So you got to see what you have in him, and you also have to see, what the options that you have at your disposal are, and also, and lastly, if you do run into injuries, and law of average, Shaun, you're going to run into injuries. You need to have above replacement NHL players. And when I say above replacement, I mean better than the average NHL players that can slot into the lineup and not miss a beat. And I think that is the most important thing that we're seeing here. If Rempe is in the lineup, I could understand Xhekaj being there, but the Rangers,
need to win hockey games.
Exactly. I think I don't think the Rangers have the luxury of putting in a Rempe if they want to beat Montreal, who's won 4 straight.
And who's a much faster team. They're a much faster team than the New York Rangers are. And look at the Rangers so far, right? They've lost 3 in a row. They've scored 1 goal combined in their last 3 games. They beat Buffalo 4-0. They thumped Pittsburgh 6-1, and they've lost to Washington, Edmonton, and Toronto. They need to get on track. They need to be a lot better. Otherwise, it's a repeat of last year's debacle.
It's worse. Their leading scorer is Adam Fox. 3 goals, 1 assist, 4 points in 6 games.
Yeah, what's going on with Panarin and the contract and his future in New York? Like, there's already drama.
Guys, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. They are the 08-09 Montreal Canadiens in their centennial season. It's the same, absolute same thing. I made a prediction. I said that none of the 3 centennial teams, Chicago, Detroit, New York Rangers, are making the playoffs this year.
Yeah.
I know it's not a hot take for Chicago.
Correct.
But,
correct. And
even Detroit to a degree.
Speaking of Detroit, they haven't lost. Their only loss was against the Canadiens. They've won every game since they played since then, right? So there's a team that's hot on the heels of the Montreal Canadiens. It's Jakub Dobson, another strong effort. Love the way he reads the puck. As Juraj Slavkovsky said, man, he's got a wild style, and you saw it again. Was that the right game? I had no problem. I expected Jakub Dobson to play against Nashville. Sam Montembeault is still the team's number 1. He'll draw in Saturday night against the New York Rangers, who come in, as we've mentioned already a few times. But Jakub Dobson making a case for himself, man. This guy's hungry to play. I really like his aggressive style. What were your takeaways from watching Jakub Dobson back in goal last night for MSL?
Oh man, Jakub Dobson is just a fighter out there, man. Man.
He's got that dog in him.
Yeah, he made some really good saves, and obviously there's the OT save, right? But one of the things that impresses me about Jakub is early in his professional career, you felt like he was just too aggressive. right? He'd try to make a save, and then he'd be at the left circle. Like he would slide away too far, and you're like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And then he'd have to like struggle to get back and get himself out of position, and they'd score against. What the Canadiens finally seem to have here is an above NHL average tandem. And you think about this, like the Canadiens would have made the playoffs comfortably if they had this setup at the beginning of last season.
Yeah. Oh,
right?
for sure,
So
man.
imagine,
for sure.
but again, like, and I mean, no disrespect to Caden Primo, right? No disrespect. But if Caden Primo played last night, the Canadiens lost that game. I think that's a fair statement to make, right? Dobson gives them that added value where even some fans are now clamoring that he should be playing more than Montembeault. And, I think that's a good problem to have. Yeah. It's a fantastic problem to have because
what are you saying? Would you play Dobson Saturday night? Would you give him back to back? I wouldn't hate it if they did it. I wouldn't hate it. Why not?
Of course not. I wouldn't. You want to get Montembeault? Of course not. No.
I'm a Dobson guy, baby.
Yeah, I know. I told Dobson last night after he finished his interview with Zdeněk in Czech that it was going to be a Dobry day on Saturday because he's going to be chilling on the bench. And he started laughing. He's like, "I'll bring my mattress." For anybody who doesn't get that joke, I will try to find the picture and have Shaun put it up on the screen.
Let's get this. Let's talk about Noah Dobson here if we can transition fast. What about this? I mean, you bring up Larry Robinson, a Hall of Fame first ballot, part of the big legendary Big Three with Guy Lapointe and Serge Savard. I kind of see what he sees in terms of the big stride and how smooth Noah Dobson is. This guy is, man, he's itching to put some points and put his offensive stamp, isn't he, on this team? And he had a great shot on the power play yesterday, but there was UC Saros kicking it away. But he's getting a little bit more involved in the offense, I find, in the last couple of games.
Yeah, well, it's worth noting, like on Tuesday, he was still icing his leg, right? Like, so he's still a little bothered. He's still a little bothered, but you see him getting his mobility back and getting that jive going. Defensively, he's been fantastic, but now you're starting to see him express himself a little bit more offensively, moving the puck well, walking the line, taking shots. I mean, the Canadiens have been clamoring for a shooting threat at the point for a long time. Now, the only thing I would say is I think that Noah Dobson would be a top 5 defenseman in the NHL if he were as physical as Robinson. Yeah. Because that's the only critique I have of Noah Dobson is he doesn't crunch guys. He doesn't hit guys. Mike Matheson yesterday demolished a Nashville Predator along the boards.
Yeah.
But Noah Dobson, that's not his style, right?
It's not his style, no. And Larry Robinson always hit to hurt. He was a tough guy, man.
So let's talk about this, about what the Islanders fans are talking about, right? Well, no, that's it. Exactly. He does not hit like Robinson.
No.
I agree with this.
Ask the Broad Street Bullies what Larry Robinson did to them.
Yeah. If he hit like Larry Robinson, again, top 5 defenseman in the NHL. I mean, Jesus, that guy hit so hard that I felt it and I wasn't even born yet. When it came to the way that he was appreciated or lack thereof, I think a lot of it had to do with revisionist history. And it was more along the lines of, hey, there were issues in Patrick Roy's system. The defensive brigade left much to be desired. I mean, for the love of God, Matthew Schaefer, who is excellent, by the way.
Yeah.
Matthew Schaefer is already a number 1 defenseman on that team. Says everything you need to know. Just aging D, not the right chemistry. Like he and Romanov were good, but Romanov was off and on injured last year. So was Dobson. Dobson had an injury that he was shaken off as well. I think yes, they are, Shaun. That's a very good observation. 100%. We talked about Newhook at the top of the episode, and Matheson. I mean, if I keep talking about Matheson, people are going to think I'm in love with him. But with Dobson, there's just so much negativity around the fact that he left that all the Islanders fans are doing at this point are just like revisionist, angry history because they were more than willing to trade him for Cole Caufield and a first-round pick because they thought he was so valuable, and now all of a sudden he decided to leave and he confirmed this to us on Tuesday night, but his primary destination was Montreal.
Yeah.
He wanted to come to Montreal. Absolutely. They were top of the list without question. And it was just up to the Canadiens to work out a trade. But ultimately, when you look at a guy like Dobson, it's because he did not fit the style that Patrick Roy likes to play. Patrick Roy likes to grind the Jesus out of his opponents and wear them down.
Yeah.
And that style can help them get wins in the short term, but you can't possibly play that style with an aging team like they were last year. I think their average age was like 31. You can't play that style because your own players are going to get worn down. And so when you have a guy like Noah Dobson, you need to give him the right partner for him to really excel, which is where you saw a 71-point season. He was playing with a healthy and effective Alexander Romanov. Well, now you're putting him with a healthy and effective Mike Matheson, and all of his qualities are showing, despite, and again, I state this, despite still being uncomfortable from that groin injury. And so to me, what stands out the most is just his overall hockey intelligence. And I've said this before, and I'll say this again, and I'm flipping it back to you when I'm done with this point, Shaun.
Yep.
Elite hockey IQ is, to me, the most important quality in hockey. If you can process the game at an elite speed, everything else can be worked on. And to me, Noah Dobson, elite hockey IQ.
You saw that processing power with Lane Hutson on what turned into be the game-tying goal. Nick Suzuki processing power in the corner with a nice feed to Cole Caufield for the game winner as the Montreal Canadiens beat Nashville 3-2, extending their winning streak to 4 in a row. So they're halfway through their 4-game homestand. What's next? What's around the corner? A visit with the winless Rangers. They've lost 3 straight games and have scored a total of 1 combined goal. They're here Saturday night. And Monday, it wraps up with a 7:30. I guess that's an Amazon Prime game, 7:30 against the Buffalo Sabres. So that's the remaining 2 games left. Let's talk about Cole Caufield, who scores with 20 seconds left. And then with a couple of seconds left in overtime, the feed from Suzuki as he beat Saros for the second time that night, blocker side, on a night where I thought Saros was pretty good. Mark Denis was telling us about this last season. UC Saros had the most steals of any goaltender playing in front of a bad Nashville team. And, he was pretty sharp yesterday, but not good enough to close the door on sniper Cole Caufield, who's on 5 goals now. But
Shaun, who is number 2?
Pardon?
Who is number 2 of the goalies that stole the most amount of games?
Monty?
Dustin Wolf.
Oh, of course, sure. Calder finalist. Okay. Yeah, Calgary
2
Flames.
goalies under 6 foot or at 6 foot.
That was my childhood. Mike Vernon's and the Mario Guslings of the world, those little tiny netminders, you know?
It's so interesting that the there's like a stigma against goaltenders that are under like 6'2", right? And yet
totally.
The 2 most effective at their position last year were at 6 feet or under.
I just want to put this up and address. Terry's been mentioning the same comment again and again and again. I think, Terry, you missed Marco's original point about how the Americans have Quinn Hughes and Zach Werenski, 2 high-end skilled offensive-minded defensemen locked in for Team USA. Terry's contention is that we keep putting Lane Hutson over, but what do you keep putting him over if he's not going to make the Olympic roster team? And I think that was Marco's point.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, I'm going to keep putting him over because what he's doing on the ice is elite.
Of course.
But then there's Quinn Hughes, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
And Quinn Hughes is, I'm sorry, better than Lane Hutson. I'm sorry. It's a fact. And this is a guy that has more experience, that Team USA is much more familiar with, and that has played on the big stage already. Who cares about the Olympics?
We don't need injuries. Scotty followed up. We don't want injuries.
Okay. I'm like, what do you mean? Who cares about the Olympics? I want to see best on best. Like, this is what Yeah. But I agree with the take in the sense that as it pertains to the Canadian success. When it comes to Lane, it's a numbers game. It really just is. There are 2 better defensemen ahead of him that happen to be left shot, that are Zach Werenski and Quinn Hughes. The Team USA, when you're building a roster, you're not going to have 3 offensive defensemen on the left side. You're going to want a guy that shoots left, that you're going to put on your penalty kill, that's going to be a physical presence, because that's what Bill Guerin and Tom Fitzgerald and all them at Hockey USA want. So that's fine. I get it. Lane Hutson will have his time. Like, I'm not worried about this. What I do look at is Cole Caufield. I think this is Cole Caufield's time. I think that when you look at the way that he plays, it's an Olympic player. And in any other iteration of Team USA, which in my opinion is probably the deepest, not the most talented, but the deepest pool of players in hockey right now, especially in nets, it's absolutely ridiculous. Defense, absolutely ridiculous. I think the only real contention you can make is offensively. The 12 versus 12 would be comparable. It's just a tough time to crack those rosters. So many elite players and so many more elite younger players coming through the ranks. Like, are they going to consider Logan Cooley, Frank Nazar? These are guys that are on fire on the up and up. And, this is where you need to remove the Montreal Canadiens hat and be a little, and I'm not saying Canadiens fans aren't objective, but, you need to really look at how those players could impact. Because if I'm Bill Guerin right now, if I'm building out a roster and I'm looking at a 13th or 14th forward, you'd probably want a center as a backup, right? You probably want Logan Cooley as a backup over a guy like Cole Caufield. I'm not saying that Cole Caufield isn't an elite player, but it's roster building, right? So sometimes you can't galaxy brain it. And so that's why I say, don't worry about it. There's still time. They only have to give their final rosters, I believe, in December. So there's lots of time for hockey to be played. Right. If Cole Caufield's still at a goal per game, it may be a little difficult to keep him off the roster. You know what I'm saying?
And again, I'm glad you end your thought process on Cole Caufield, because I want to dive into him here for a second. Obviously, he scored. He was fantastic against Seattle, Snipe City. His release looks faster than it did a year ago. And if you look at Cole Caufield's career, right, since he broke into the National Hockey League, I mean, the man has been on a steady trajectory in one direction, and that is just up, 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 up. 4 shots on goal, 2 shots
I believe we refer to that song as Golden.
Golden?
Just going to put it out there. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
All the parents that are watching this right now know exactly what I'm talking about. All the parents know what I'm talking about.
From his first kind of full season, right? 23 goals, 26 goals, 28 goals, 37 last year, 33 assists for 70 points. I don't know if it would surprise people when I spit out these two numbers: 292 career games played, 226 career points. And also, he became the fastest player to get to 10 overtime winners, right there with Howie Morenz, Max Pacioretty. Pacioretty did it in over 600 games. Howie Morenz did it in over 400 games. Cole Caufield has 10 overtime winners in less than 300 games. So if we follow Caufield's trajectory, how it just steadily climbs up and up and up. His shooting percentage today is a smidge over 31%. Let's move the goalposts a bit. 37 goals. It's not a hot take to say 40 is right there. No. Is 50 there? Is 50 on the table? High 40s on the table with our feet firmly planted on the ground. No fanboy take, no rose-colored glasses. I don't think it's a stretch to think that he can maybe pot 8 to 10 more off his total last season in a full healthy campaign.
You also have to remember that he started on fire last season as well.
He had 4. Right? He had 4 goals in 5 games.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think he had like 7 and 10 or something. It was ridiculous. But like Cole Caufield is always a firecracker at the beginning of the season. What really did the Canadiens in, I found, last season was the anemic power play into the last 15 games of the season. That's what really killed the offense.
Yeah.
Patrick Laine started scoring less. Cole Caufield started scoring less. Nick Suzuki was the only one scoring at one point. And so I think that if that consistency stays throughout the season, my prediction was 75 points for Cole Caufield. Okay. So whether that's a 45-30 or a 40-35, that's the way the cookie crumbles. But I think it'll be between 40 to 45 goals this season.
Yep.
That's the way I see it. But what I enjoy is that it would be 75 points where he wasn't sacrificing defense to make it happen. And I think that's the even most valuable part of the process.
Yeah, he's his well-rounded game just continues to be so impressive. And he's got that swagger, that ability to be so confident that his release and his accuracy is good from any angle. And you saw it obviously against Joey Decord in the home opener against the Seattle Kraken. I mean, what did Aaron Ward said? It's like putting a penny in a slot. It was just perfect time by number 13.
What's a penny?
Oh man.
I'm just messing.
Oh,
I'm
man.
just messing.
Do you even remember when you can buy candy at the dep for a penny? Are you old enough for that or not?
No. It was definitely the inflation had hit. It was 25 cents by then.
Right.
You had to put a quarter into the machine, and man, did I put quarters.
Exactly.
One thing I do want to address, though, as we're kind of talking about this, and I think I'm not joking when I tell you this. I actually took the time to count while I was at McLean's last night. I got 113 messages on all platforms combined asking what the hell is going on with the Montreal Canadiens power play.
Well, let's get into it. I mean, 0 for 3 yesterday, 15% on the season. They're 23rd overall in the National Hockey League in that category. And I don't know. I mean, again, I'm a big fan of the sample size. It's only 5 games, right? But at some point, they're going to have to do something. And listen, it is all about being the Canadiens. I could tell you this: the Canadiens felt last year that they were too predictable on the man advantage. So you can see how they're trying to be a little bit more diverse. Who's in the bumper, the quick passes, the quick play and transition. So they're trying to be less predictable is the goal on the onset here. But how much longer can it go on before it starts to hurt them? They're winning these games. They've won 4 in a row, but I don't know if it's time for best on the power play instead of, air quote, experimenting. But something's got to give pretty soon, don't you think?
Well, ironically, I found that the second wave looked better than the first wave. I thought that Demidov, Dobson, Laney were moving the puck actually quite well. I think we've talked about this, but like there was an instance that the best that the first power play wave looked was the 30 seconds in which Nick Suzuki was back in the bumper for some reason.
Yeah.
And it was Zachary Baldzuk in front of the net. Slav was going like Gretzky-ish around the net. I do have a $2 bill. I do have a $2 bill.
You remember the $2 bill?
I own one. Of course I remember it.
Oh, you used one? Okay. I thought maybe, I don't know, your grandma could have gave it to you when you were a good little boy. Yes. You know what I mean?
Yes, that's exactly what happened.
But you didn't like carry it in your pocket. Like, did you ever spend a $2 bill?
No, I did not.
Okay.
Well, the $2 coin came out in 96.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I remember the $2 bill. I was just a child. I didn't earn money. So child labor was abolished at a certain point in time in the 80s. So anyway, all this to say, I think that Nick Suzuki being in the bumper, being the focal point, at 5-on-5, actually, Slavkovsky had one of the best games in the Canadiens. Sadly,
I don't want to be too hard. I got roasted for having an opinion on Slavkovsky, but I don't know, man.
I will say this is what I will say about Slavkovsky. Physically, he's there. On the rush, he's there. Passes, really good. Speed of execution.
It's not there, Marco. It's not there.
It's just not there. He needs to be a half a second faster, either with his shots or with his passing. I think he does belong on the power play, Joe, but he doesn't belong on the right circle.
I was going to say, it's the wrong role, man. It's definitely, without question, I've seen enough of it personally. I've seen enough.
Slavkovsky has what? Let me just double check. Sorry for using my laptop on a...
And listen, you also made the point while you looked that up. You made the point last week, and I don't disagree with it, that you just can't be so short-sighted about points. And you stressed that on our last live show.
Yeah. Juraj Slavkovsky has 43 NHL goals. 22 in my notes here. 22 of them. So just above 50% are deflections or redirects. Net front presence, ladies and gentlemen. Let us remember the game against Chicago. Where was Juraj Slavkovsky? Making Spencer Knight have to figure out because his giant keister was in front of him. Exactly. I just think he should... Okay, Sheldon nails this. So this is how I feel. Because if we all remember back to the playoffs when Laine was injured, exactly. And you saw this happen often. If his release were a half a second quicker, he would already have 2 or 3 goals extra on his sheet.
Yeah.
I am of the strong belief that if the Canadiens are going to be successful in the first power play wave, they need to play a diamond formation. Because Nick Suzuki, it's like playing
that since the summer.
Yeah, but it works. And I'm telling you, Shaun, bookmark this, clip this. This is happening. By the time it happens, it will be at that point that the Canadiens are successful in the power play. That's the way I believe it. Zachary Bolduc being used in the bumper because he's excellent at it doesn't do any favors for the rest of the 4 players on the ice. That is my 2 cents. I'm not saying he's bad at it. He's effing excellent at being a bumper shot. But that's not how the first power play wave plays, because in St. Louis, it was Rob Thomas playing on the left circle. Rob Thomas is an excellent center, but he's more of a playmaker than he's a goal scorer. That's not the case with Cole Caufield playing on the left circle, right? Cole Caufield is an excellent playmaker, but he's a goal scorer first and foremost. So it's not the same thing. And so when I look at this and I'm trying to evaluate, what you should do there, Caufield on the left circle, Demidov on the right circles, Hutson at the point, Nick Suzuki in the bumper, Slavkovsky is net front. And then your second wave becomes Dobson, line A, Kirby Doc on the right circle. He does not belong in the bumper. And then you have, then you put Bolduc in the bumper. And then if, you name it, Brendan Gallagher, Alex Newhook, as the player that plays around the net. And those are your 2 power play waves.
But this is where the points come in. Like,
he's
got one goal. He's got 1 goal through 5 games, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not here to make a big deal out of that personally, but I'm afraid that he will. He's so hard on himself and has been so hard on himself for a couple of seasons now. He's been called to the office by his coach. He's been called by his manager. He comes out and talks about it publicly. He says he wants to be like Brady Tkachuk. I think both you and I disagreed with that line of thinking. I don't think you can be a Brady Tkachuk without being born like Brady Tkachuk and have that, that intangible inside your genetic coding. So that's what I mean. Like, I'm a little concerned about the confidence and how maybe his perception, even though the team is winning, when you go home, you're like, man, coulda, shoulda, woulda, but it's not translating to the score sheet. And I hope he's not too hard on himself.
I, again, hope he's not too hard on himself. And obviously, I think everybody understands that he is 21 years old.
That's it.
Well, Pierre gets it. He is 21 years old. What I think needs to happen is there needs to be a conversation in terms of speed of execution. There needs to be more. I think, maybe but McKinnon's a different story. McKinnon needed to physically mature to be able to play his game. Slavkovsky's basically there. When you look at I think the Canadiens need to bring Dr. Schott back in and work on speed of release, snapping those shots. Maybe they shave his stick down a couple of inches to make the shooting motion faster. Because yes, it helps them with poke checking and whatnot. But if you want to be Joel Armia, then be my guest. But if you want to be Mikko Rantanen, we need to see, a significant improvement in terms of the speed of execution, be it shot, passing, or any playmaking of any sort. And so that's the conversation that's going to need to be had, because really everything else is great. The physicality, he's showing it. The willingness to be in the danger areas, he's going there. The defensive acumen in the neutral zone and playing hard along the boards in the defensive zone, he's doing that too. So he's doing everything right to not hurt the team, but he's not helping the team offensively yet, or at least not intrinsically from his own doing. He's assisting and making space for the top line, but he's not necessarily the one executing. And for a first overall pick, obviously in a very, sporadic draft, but a first overall pick, power forward-esque player that potted 9, that was the Olympics MVP. You want to see that kind of goal scoring ability because he showed it. It's just that, and what was the difference? It was on big ice in Beijing. North American ice, smaller, less time.
Yeah,
so it's to me simply just a timing issue. If he can get the timing issue right, then we're in business. The thing that concerns me is, to me, this is an element of his game that should have been addressed last year, not now.
But he seemed to check all the boxes and say the right things this past summer about his training and how.
Yeah, but you've seen that. You've seen that from other players
very openly. Yeah,
that's fine. But it's okay to say the right things, right? Like these are like Yuri Slavkovsky has been coached on PR since he was 15. He knows what to say. Come on now. But at the same time, it's one thing to say that you understand what the problem is. It's another thing entirely to do what you need to do to address it and fix it. And we just have not seen that yet. And I think that's where the concern of some fans come. I know Martin St. Louis. I know that conversation's happening, or probably they're off today, so tomorrow. But as we speak, in the sense that they're going to be on him to work on that timing, to work on that. Because you look at a guy like, for example, you look at a guy like Caufield, the speed of execution is elite.
Yes.
It's impossible
who was next
to
to
see what he's going to
Caufield
do.
when he scored the tying goal? Big 20 was right there in stride with him. He was right there with him,
Yeah,
Had there been a rebound or something, he was going towards the net.
So it's the details in his game are there. I have no qualms. Like, people are just some fans think that he's playing terribly.
No, it's not terrible.
I think that he's a net positive player defensively right now. Like, in fact, if you were to look right now at the Montreal Canadiens advanced stats, Juraj Slavkovsky has the best chances for, chances against. No, not this model. I'll explain it on another episode. But Juraj Slavkovsky has the highest chances for, chances against ratio on the Montreal Canadiens, which means that when Juraj Slavkovsky is on the ice, he has a better overall record of producing offense versus allowing defensive opportunities, including Cole Caufield and Nick Suzuki at even strength. So that says something to me right off the bat. It's that when it comes to being defensively implicated, this is a player that is limiting far more than he's allowing. And that to me is what Martin St. Louis wants as a base, and you build on that to get better and better and better. And so that's what I want to see now, is what is he going to look like at game 13? Because, one of the key things, guys, and, this is going to be an element to watch. The Canadiens are going out west next week.
Correct.
Right? That's why we're doing our live show on the 22nd at McLean's at 7 p.m. because they're going to be in Calgary. They're going to be in Edmonton. They're going to be in Vancouver. I know I'm getting good at this plugging stuff.
I know.
And then they're going to, so those are going to be physical games. That's what the Western Conference is, right? It's a little bit more physical. Just look at how Zachary Bolduc became a much more physical player playing in the Central Division. So I think that's where we may see a more implicated Juraj Slavkovsky. And that is where I'm going to be paying significant attention, because that's when the Canadiens do not have the last change. And that to me will be intriguing.
You mentioned McLean's, 1210 Peel Street. Will be there October 22nd. You can support us by supporting our sponsors, cheapesttshirts.ca, local company. Order today, ship today, get it tomorrow. littlebearonline.com with delivery and curbside pickup across from Westmount Square. And of course, our friends with Remax Platine, buying or selling your house with Catherine Prince, Catherine with a K, catherineprince.ca. Call her, 514-702-2474. Check out her website, catherineprince.ca. I see lots of comments. Well, yeah, exactly. Look at the properties near the Bell Center. Might be a good idea. We'll get more into Slavkovsky in a second, but I want to talk about roster adjustments. You saw it yesterday. Struble in for Jack-Eye, Dobesh playing his role. For playing that 2/3 game, that was his game yesterday against Nashville. What about Joe Veleno? Everyone's gotten in except good old Joe Veleno, who, by the way, looked fantastic. What a suit he had on. My gosh. Would I'd love to look that good in a suit. I would give up nothing really, but I just love to look that good in a suit.
We told him that in the media lounge. Him and Jaden Struble on the home opener. I was just like, where do you guys go? I need a tailor like that.
Senor Terry, I bet. Who comes out? Like, I don't think anyone comes out for Joe Veleno. For the biggest Joe Veleno fan, like, make your argument for.
No.
What does that roster look like, barring injury, that Joe Veleno slots in? Everyone keeps saying Patrick Laine, but Patrick Laine is not coming out for Joe Veleno. I think at 5-on-5, he'd be better than Patrick Laine, but you still need that shot, right?
Yep. Yeah. No, look, if Joe Veleno comes out, it would be for Oliver Kapanen. That's the way I see it.
No, I'm not taking him out. Yeah.
Well, look, mixed reviews here. I like the fact that Kapanen is able to go to the danger areas more and more now and assert himself, especially in right in front of the crease. It was a problem that I had with him during the preseason that was clearly rectified in conversations with Martin St. Louis, and you got to appreciate that. So obviously you do that, it'll translate to goals. I just don't find that line is effective in the sense of being able to be a 5-on-5 consistent presence. I think that they may need to juggle the two, the second and third line, but other than that, I don't necessarily see a problem with Kapanen and his chemistry with Alex Newhook on the penalty kill.
Oh, it's so
I think
good.
is too valuable to take him out, right? And
Yeah.
then so I think Veleno in this case is just going to have to be patient. Some players, and you don't wish this, but there could be injuries. He's a valuable player that you can bring in because he is at worst a replacement level player, but he can play on the penalty kill. He can be used at 5-on-5. He's a left shot center. The Canadians don't have any of those. So at the end of the day, I think there's value there, but I think that something will have to give. Like a player will have to have like a dog pooper of a game.
Oh boy,
for Joe Veleno to come in. That's the way I see it.
To me, it's if you're, I would argue it's Patrik Laine, and I don't even think it's close. Like I'm keeping Kapanen in, but when I see Patrik Laine, in 5 games, there's been 2 of them where he's had no shots on goal. Was a no shot and a -1 against Nashville yesterday. Chicago, he's a little bit more dangerous. Why was he a little bit more dangerous? Because they had 10 freaking power plays against the Blackhawks. I'm worried about Patrik Laine and the pure lack of impact. Even the one-timers, he's whiffed on a couple of one-timers. Like the timing isn't there yet. The 5-on-5 isn't strong. I don't think there's a debate, brother. Joe Veleno 5-on-5 over Patrik Laine all day, every day. Is it just the sheer power play, do you think? And the veteran presence of Patrik Laine that keeps him in after 5 games?
Yes, absolutely. And I think also it's a contract year, and the Canadians don't want to do him dirty in that regard, especially at the beginning of the season, right?
Yeah.
And they're winning. So I don't necessarily see the premise in him having to do that. Now, if they were losing and he was playing like dog poo-poo again, as we said, that would be a different story. But he's not hurting the team defensively, except for that back check on the Perbix goal. That miscue between him and Noah Dobson, I was kind of a little disappointed because prior to that, he was playing a pretty flawless game of 5-on-5 in terms of, being a presence defensively and breaking up plays and whatnot. But, again, you have to have a role on this team. And one of the things that irks me, and it's not Patrik Laine, it's just the fact that the lineup in its entirety is basically being built to accommodate having Patrik Laine in the lineup, because ultimately, if you remove Patrik Laine from the lineup, Joe Veleno comes in. Now you actually have a real shutdown 4th line, right? But then having that shutdown 4th line takes the pressure off the first line being asked to shut down the top line of the opposition, which they have since the beginning of the season. And then they could focus on being a little bit more offensive. That takes a load off of Nick Suzuki, who, although has 7 points, hasn't been the most noticeable Suzuki that we've seen in recent times. He's been great defensively, but doesn't have that same spark offensively. And I think a lot of that comes from the extra defensive responsibilities. That being said, ultimately, Martin St. Louis says this all the time, but it's about putting the players in the right chairs. And right now, I just don't feel like they're in their right chairs, 5-on-5 or on the power play, because they're still trying to accommodate Laine and try to get him going. And I don't blame them. If they can get Patrik Laine going, that's a serious offensive weapon, and you can't take that for granted.
Oh, my dog has come to pay me a visit.
Yeah, buddy.
Just to round up our thoughts on Juraj Slavkovsky.
Well, I think Slav, like I said, Slav, it'll just come.
Problems on the team, right? I don't think there's masking issues here.
Look, I think push comes to shove. You're playing some of these games, transition's not there. Seattle and Nashville play very boring defensive styles that will kind of negate the north-south kind of style that the Canadians like to play.
Yeah.
I think the Rangers is going to be a different story. I think the Rangers is going to be, run and gun on both ends. The Sabres, same concept. Those are not defensive teams by any stretch of the imagination. And then when you go out west, I think it'll be a different style there too, where it's a little bit more of a dump and chasey board battle style of play, except for maybe the Oilers. So we'll see what happens. But, again, 5 games into the season, I'm not going to worry about it. Last year, this time, Slavkovsky had 6 points in his first 10 games, but was playing abysmally defensively. He's got 1 point in 5 games, and I think he's been an excellent 5-on-5 player overall. It's just some things that need to be tweaked. I think it's a far better situation to be in where he's doing all the right things and the habits are there and the offense will then come, than if he was just mooching off the top line, being really, really good, but being an anchor to that top line of 5-on-5.
Tip of the cap to Jakub Dobeš, man. That guy was as cool as a cucumber on that Forsberg save, that 2-on-0 from center ice. A 2-on-0, 3-on-3 hockey, man. I love watching 3-on-3 hockey. It's so freaking fun. And as good as Dobeš was, man, coming out and wanting a very quick whistle, but his head's in the game, his angles are sharp. There's the one thing, I will say, I thought I went to bat for Montembeault in that Seattle game. I thought a couple of people were a little harsh on Montembeault's game. I didn't like the fourth goal, but one thing I'll give Dobeš a big heads up on is his puck tracking through screens is good, man. I guess that's probably skews towards his aggressive nature, huh?
Yeah. It's his. So what I enjoy from him is when a shot comes, a lot of goalies will just drop to their knees real quick.
Yeah.
He explodes to the front and then drops. So that extra second, have a good one. That extra second, he's able to kind of increase the amount of percentage of the net that he's able to cover.
Yeah.
And what he's doing in doing that is he's not overcommitting. And I think that's the key. So when you're trying to track a puck and see where things are going, it's just ridiculous in terms of being able to track.
Montembeault played 62 games last year. Like a little skewed.
They rode
Montembeault
hard especially the tail end of last year.
And remember how much volume they gave up. They gave up a shit ton of volume all the time. And look at this year. Go read Arpin Basu in The Athletic. The splits between expected goals against, shots against, chances against, like they were 32nd out of 32 teams, brother, in every category.
He was a top 5 goalie in terms of being able to steal games. So I don't necessarily have an issue with that. We'll see where things go. And, ultimately we will reassess again when we get to like the 15 game mark, 16 game mark. I think at that point, that's where we'll be in business. But ultimately right now, like I just don't see a need to create a goalie controversy. It's great to have a backup that can come in and look great, but it's a whole different ball game when that backup has to play 6-7 games in a row. And again, the weight that this has on people is a very different story. That's the way I see it anyway. And Jakub Dobeš, like guys, you have to remember, he has experience in this. He'll tell you firsthand that it is an absolute, what can I say, a whopper of a situation when you have to play a significant amount of games. Jakub Dobeš has the record for the most amount of games played by a goalie in the American Hockey League as a rookie. He has the record because they didn't have a proper backup for him at the time because they had 3 goalies up on the main roster, right? And so Jakub Dobeš was forced to play something ridiculous like 50 games or something like that, where it was just not conducive to his stats, right? His stats were okay. It was a 906 save percentage, but he played 51 games. The calendar in the AHL is like 75, 76, I think. So that's a lot of games. So it didn't help his stats. His stats got much better in Laval when he was playing fewer games.
And I like, Philip brings this up because we've talked about it a lot in different positions, having good problems to have, right? I love inner competition, forcing one guy to look over his shoulder, whether it's Jacky and Struble, Monty or Dobeš, Adam Engstrom pushing from Laval. But eventually, Marco, these good problems are going to need solutions. And I think Ken Hughes obviously has an exceptionally high batting average, right? But like, they need solutions to these very good problems. And we're still, many, 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 many games away from having a hard look at these solutions. But Dobeš and Jacob Fowler, Sam Montembeault, good problems to have, but I don't know how they're going to figure this puzzle out. Marco, it's been a wild ride. And once again, we just can't stop talking. We can't stop talking. An hour and 24 minutes into our live show. Thank you so much for all of your support today. I've got a golf game with, should I name drop who I'm playing with today?
Why not?
Pierre Hood. I'm playing with Pierre Hood today.
Kiddo.
Hey. Le meilleur. Thank you so much. Ma parole, playing with Pierre Hood today of RDS. Marco, thanks as always. Don't forget, we have our live show Sunday morning at 10 a.m. To recap the Habs going for 5 in a row when they handle the New York Rangers. Big shout out to our sponsors, cheapesttshirts.ca, McLean's Pub, 1210 Peel Street, the home of D'Amico and Starr, October 22nd, Little Bear. Shout out to our partners at Little Bear, littlebearonline.com, and Catherine Prince, buying or selling your house. Check out our website, catherineprince.ca. And of course, you can always call her with Remax Platine and buying or selling. Call her at 514-702-2474. Marco D'Amico, thank you, sir. Enjoy Friday. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you live Sunday morning. How about that?
Sounds like a plan.
Peace, everybody.